Can you beat the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion without using magic? The rules for this challenge are as follows. Rule 1. I'm not allowed to use magic or potions of any kind. Yes, I am classing potions as a form of magic. Rule 2. No glitches, cheats or exploits. And Rule 3. No messing with the game difficulty. I've done this in the past and I didn't feel right about it, so I'm not going to do it this time. So to start with, I created an odd character for the boost to strength and endurance that this race gets. Now luckily, with the sewers being the tutorial stage of the game, it's actually pretty easy to deal with without having to heal, and you can always just use the wait command if you need to. However, the downside to this is that you can only use the wait command when there are no enemies around. Therefore, you will have to finish any fights that you are currently in before you can do this. I chose the warrior as my birth sign for a further boost to strength and endurance, and Boris actually got my class right this time. I also made sure to change my cast key to something that I couldn't accidentally press. Now the biggest problem I'm going to have for this challenge is healing, as I'm going to be in some pretty serious and long fights without the ability to heal myself. So my first objective was to sell all of the loot that I'd collected in the sewers before paying a visit to Joffrey. Now I knew I was going to need some decent armour, and I was going to be able to get some steel armour from the Battlehorn Castle just up the road. I was able to collect nearly a full set of steel armour from one of the fallen knights with the exception of the steel helmet. I actually took quite a lot of damage during this fight. No matter how well I'm protected, I'm still going to feel some serious effects from magicka. So then it was off to sell the rest of the loot and buy 20 repair hammers before heading towards Oblivion. Now the problem with Oblivion is that it is a very dangerous realm and there are enemies everywhere, which means using the wait command to heal will not always be an option here. Now you can actually just run through the Oblivion gate without dealing with many enemies. Of course this raises the problem of I'll be constantly getting chased, and therefore will not be able to ever use the wait command, so it was better to just cut down all of the enemies that I could. I actually did die once I got inside the first tower. However, on my second attempt, I was able to clear the room and heal up. And this is the problem with this challenge, in that the fights can end up being extremely close. So my strategy for dealing with the first Oblivion gate was to essentially clear every room that I could one at a time, and then use the wait command to heal. My sword actually broke inside the Sigilstone room as I forgot to repair my weapons and armour, but luckily I had a silver war axe, which I forgot to mention earlier but I'm definitely going to need later. You see, later on I'm going to have to deal with the ghosts inside of Sanctuary, and in the Elder Scrolls you need either magic, silver or Daedric weaponry to damage ghosts. Now, I'm not using magic and I don't think there's any chance that I'm going to get some Daedric weaponry as I'm going to be staying at level 2, so silver is the best way forward. Having closed the Oblivion gate, it was time to return to Waynon Priory with Brother Martin. However, it seemed that the Priory was under attack from the Mythic Dawn. One of the Mythic Dawn agents waited patiently while I finished my conversation. Now, dealing with the rest of the Mythic Dawn wasn't too much of a trouble as I had 2 monks and Martin with me. And after discovering that the Amulet of Kings was gone, we headed off to Waynon Priory where Martin would theoretically be safer now. Upon joining the Blades, Joffrey gave me a katana which does 7 points of damage. Now, being at level 1, this is actually really good. My next task was to find Boris, the utter failure who let the Emperor die. So I actually preemptively attacked the Mythic Dawn agent and got the first book from Mankar Cameron's commentaries. Unfortunately though, this counted as an assault and so I was arrested and had to pay a fine. Having collected 3 of the books, it was time to trudge through the sewers with Boris. Now, the sewers just contain rats and goblins and the occasional mud crab that pretty much died to 1 or 2 hits, so aren't really worth talking about. However, the room with the sponsor is another story. I preemptively attacked him before he had time to summon his armour, and I was able to kill him quickly. Boris was able to deal with another agent, and we finished off the last one together. Now this fight can be very hard, but because I preemptively attacked Raven Cameron, it wasn't too difficult. And at last I was able to discover the super secret base of the Mythic Dawn. So there's 2 ways to do this quest. You can either hand over all of your items to Harrow and he will escort you to Mehrunes Dagon, or you can refuse to hand over your items and simply cut your way through the Dagon Shrine. I had to check that my difficulty was still set to normal because the Mythic Dawn agents went down really easily. Now this is because I'm a Nord with boosted strength and a katana that does 7 damage. Now the one benefit to doing it this way is that you don't have to deal with all the acolytes on your escape from the Dagon Shrine. I'm going to need this shrine as clear as possible if I am going to have any chance of using the wait command. Now, on my first attempt in the main chamber, I actually got killed, and to put it simply, it's because magic absolutely wrecks me. I realised that going forward, dealing with any kinds of magic users is going to be a real problem, and the Mythic Dawn Shrine is absolutely crawling with agents, so I'm going to have to clear out each section before trying to heal up. Sometimes you can simply just dodge their magical attacks, but sometimes you're not so lucky. And fighting in such close quarters as the caverns of the Dagon Shrine are, it could be extremely difficult to dodge their attacks as well. With only a fraction of health left, I was eventually able to clear out enough of the Mythic Dawn for me to be able to use the wait command to heal up. And after returning the Mysterium Xerxes to Martin, it seemed the Blades had yet another task for me, eliminating some spies in Bruma. Now, to be totally honest, dealing with the spies, I only had to deal with one at a time, and they didn't really get much magic off, so they were very easy to cut down. And wouldn't you know it, Martin had yet another quest for me. This time I was charged with retrieving a Daedric artifact. In order to do this, I would need to level up, where I distributed my points between strength, endurance and agility, because why the hell not? I then purchased a sample of glow dust as I didn't really fancy taking down the will-o-wisps. And Azura gave me the mission of clearing out a vampire lair. Now the vampires were extremely difficult. So there are a handful of vampires in this cave, and dealing with them one at a time is probably for the best. Now I actually got absolutely destroyed on my first attempt. The inability to heal is a serious drawback with this challenge. So I actually had 2 attempts at the first vampire, however I wasn't able to beat him. Now this was because I had my torch equipped. The reason I had my torch equipped was to provide better light for the video quality. However, upon realising that I would actually need a shield to block effectively, I was forced to unequip my torch and use a shield. This led to better results. It did, however, mean that I would have to mess around with the clips in the editing process in order to make the clips more visible. Probably should have just changed the game brightness or something, but never mind. My next battle, I was forced to take on 2 of the vampires at once. One of them died extremely easily, however the orc actually killed me again. Seriously, a few health potions would not have gone amiss here. On my next attempt, I was once again able to cut down the weaker of the vampires, before leading the orc outside, hoping that the sun damage would severely damage her enough for me to finish her off. Unfortunately, she killed me yet again. Upon reloading the autosave, I simply decided to just press the attack, and I actually managed to kill her this time. There was another vampire that went down extremely easily, however the last orc took a very long time. He wasn't dealing a lot of damage to me, so there was a lot of shielding and hitting. But as he wasn't doing a lot of damage to me, I wasn't in any real danger. So long as I timed my blocking and attacking perfectly, I was able to take him down. I'd say the most annoying thing about this is that vampires are extremely susceptible to fire spells, but never mind. This last vampire did take an excessively long time, but eventually I was able to kill him and retrieve the Azura Star from Azura. But wait, Martin has yet another mission for me. This time I'm going to have to go down and close another Oblivion gate, this time situated outside of Bruma. Now, one of the good things about this quest is that you have allies. You have the Bruma Guard, as well as Captain Bird, who actually cannot be killed for this mission. Even if he gets knocked out, he will get back up and keep fighting later. I was also able to obtain a silver sword from one of the fallen guardsmen. This is probably better than the axe as I'm using blade as my primary form of combat. Now, once again, my main problem I had with this quest is finding a safe place to wait and heal up. However, Captain Bird, being the absolute tank that he is, was able to cut through most of the enemies with no problem. I was also able to help, whereas in previous challenges I haven't been able to. However, once I got into the Sigil Tower, I found that I was sustaining heavy damage, and it took me a very long time to clear out the rooms in order to heal. Thankfully though, because I'm such a low level and dealing so much damage, this Oblivion Gate really wasn't too much trouble. I did nearly die in the Sigil Stone room, but thanks to having Captain Bird by my side, I was able to get the Sigil Stone. My next task, however, would be a lot more difficult. You see, Martin asks us to retrieve the blood of a divine, which takes us to an ancient forgotten tomb called Sankator. By this point, my silver sword was doing about 8 points of damage, and being only level 2, I was able to easily cut through the ghosts in 2 or 3 hits. Once again, my strategy was simple: if I don't get hit, I won't need to heal. Now, dealing with the enemies in Sankator was pretty straightforward. I feel like they would have done a lot more damage to me, especially the ghosts, had I not been a Nord. You see, Nords have a natural resistance to frost, and the ghosts tend to fire off cold attacks, so I was naturally resistant to these anyway. I managed to make it through Sankator with absolutely no problem at all. Magic was of absolutely no use here. After I'd collected the Armour of Tiber Septum, my next quest was to gather a Great Welkid Stone. Now, Miscartland could have been difficult, it should have been difficult, but it wasn't. And the reason, simply put, is I've been playing to my character's strengths right through this challenge. I picked a Nord, I boosted his strength and endurance, gave him a powerful sword, and sent him forward to destroy his enemies with ease. Now, it is true that Miscartland is absolutely rammed with enemies, be it zombies, goblins, or skeletons, and the zombies take a lot of hits to take down. They also pack a considerable punch and regenerate health. But to be honest, they stagger so easily that I was able to take on 3 at once with very little trouble. The enemies even fight each other. I would say that the only hard part of Miscartland was the King of Miscartland himself, as he's allied to 2 zombie guardians. Now, on my first attempt at killing the King of Miscartland, I was able to take him down. However, I got killed by his zombie guardians. On my second attempt, I thought I would have to strategize a little bit more. After gaining the Welkid Stone, I headed straight for one of the zombie guardians, taking him out as he was easy to stagger. Then, while I was looking for the second zombie guardian, the King of Miscartland turned up, and I was actually really lucky to defeat him here. I think I staggered him enough times, that's how I actually won, but then another zombie guardian came up behind me and started attacking me. With everything collected, there was only one item left to obtain, a Great Sigil Stone. For this, the Battle of Bruma must begin. Now, everything about this quest, beginning, middle and end, was difficult. You see, there is a side quest you can do called Allies for Bruma, in which you can get guards from other cities to help you with this. If you don't do this, you get bog standard militia who are not as strong. On my first attempt at the Battle for Bruma, I got killed as I wasn't able to heal as there's too many enemies around. The second time was pretty much the same thing. On my third attempt, I learned my lesson and just hung back and let everyone else deal with the battle until the Great Gate opened. Now, once you enter the Great Gate, you have about 15 minutes to collect the Great Sigil Stone. You do not have to kill any of the enemies, you just have to get through it as quickly as possible. So I took off all of my armor and basically just ran past everything that I could. However, I died several times in this gate. So my plan for the Great Gate was save it frequently. There was no way I was able to use the wait command within the gate as this is a timed event. 2 times I tried to climb the first tower, 2 times I failed. On my third attempt, I decided it might be better to actually put my armor on and fight some of the enemies to get by. This Daedra actually fell to his death, which was extremely lucky for me as I wasn't actually sure I'd be able to beat him with such low health. So I'd be stuck on low health for the rest of this Oblivion Gate. On my first attempt to get through the big gates to the next area, I was hit by a spell and was killed. My next attempt saw me killed as I ran straight past the Sigil Keeper. It was here I realised that I'd actually missed him out, so I would need to kill him anyway. Because I was on excessively low health, I really couldn't afford to take any more damage. Now, my first 5 attempts at this guy, I actually did it without armor, as I thought moving in quickly and striking him before he had a chance to fight back was the best way to kill him. But when all else failed, I put on my armor and was actually able to take him down. Without any way of healing now, I was forced to essentially limp through this Oblivion Gate, dodging whatever I could. And it was by carefully placed quick saves and sheer luck that I finally managed to grab the Sigil Stone and escaped with just a slither of health. You see, because my health was now so low, any rogue spell that might have hit me would take me out in one hit. Therefore, I would have to do a lot of quick saving and dodging. Now that we had all the necessary tools, it was time to enter Manka Cameron's Paradise. Now, the first garden was quite difficult as there were some Clanfear runs. Even though I was level 2, the Clanfears pack one hell of a punch and they did actually manage to kill me. However, as long as I was able to take on one at a time and keep my distance with my sword, I was able to take them out. Furthermore, Manka Cameron's Paradise not being a complete hellhole unlike Oblivion, I was able to use the wait command a lot more. Now, there's a Daedra in the Savage Garden called Kathratet. Now, you can either serve him or you can kill him. If you talk to him first, you have the ability to serve him. However, I just charged straight in and kicked his ass. Now, that's not to say that Manka Cameron's Paradise was easy. It was arguably the hardest part of this challenge. You see, the Clanfear runts were stronger than pretty much any enemy I'd come across so far. And especially when I had to deal with more than one at a time. Eventually, though, I did run into Eldermill. Now, Eldermill is a very useful ally as he can't actually be killed. You see, he's been granted immortality by Manka Cameron, which is really ironic because he's going to use that immortality to bring Manka Cameron down. Occasionally, I would get killed by the odd Clanfear, however I just had to reload my save and run around Eldermill as he was firing off spells which were very effective against the Clanfears. Once I had reached Manka Cameron, instead of letting him talk, I just decided to charge straight in and see what would happen. It was worthless to attack his children as they would just get revived. It's probably a good thing that I wasn't using magic, as I think Eldermill hit Manka with a spell that actually reflected and killed him. So if I had to guess, I would say that Manka Cameron has some kind of reflect spell ability, but it doesn't really matter for me anyway. On my 3rd attempt, I was able to finish him off and take back the Amulet of Kings. And my last mission, after Martin was sworn in as Emperor, was to deliver him to the Temple of the One. Now, Martin can be killed in this quest and you will fail. However, you do not have to fight or kill any enemies on the way to the Temple of the One. So all you have to do really is just run past everything. And that is exactly what I did. I ran past all the enemies to the Temple of the One and beat the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion without using potions or magic. Man, what can I say about this challenge? I thought it was going to be really difficult, but it turned out to be super easy. Now that's probably because you can just use the wait command to heal, and that's not magic, so that's why I allowed it. But yeah, I thought this challenge would be a lot harder than it was. But I enjoyed it all the same. I always enjoy doing Oblivion challenges. Oblivion is my favourite game of all time. I think my next one will be on Skyrim. I have one that is like seriously overdue. It's actually a viewer suggested one. And on that note, hopefully I'll be able to start making videos again more frequently. You see, I've been off getting married and stuff, so like things have been really busy for me at the minute. So I'm really happy that I can now get back to making vids. And finally, I'd just like to thank you all so much for watching today. Please like, subscribe and all that good stuff. Leave in the comments if you do have any, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.